assured there that he will protect such surrendered souls from the reactions from the sinful activities are due both to the sins themselves and to sins committed in our past lives. Generally, one commits sinful activities due to ignorance, but ignorance is no excuse for evading the reaction sinful activities. Sinful activities are the two kinds, those which are mature and those which are not mature. The sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment are called mature. The many sinful activities stored within us for which we have not yet suffered are considered immature. For example, a man may have committed criminal acts but is not yet arrested for them. Now, as soon as he is detected, arrest is awaiting him. Similarly, for some of our sinful activities, we are awaiting distress in the future. And for others which are mature, we are suffering at the present moment.
Okay, very good. So a lot of nice points here, particularly Krishna's advice is that if we simply surrender to him, he says, Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo. Oh, and by the way, welcome to Narayan and Sachin Prabhus. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Damodar Pranam.
My humble obeisances to you and also to Nirvi. Hare Krishna. Very good. Welcome. Good to see you all. Okay, so let's have a look at this. What would anyone say is the main point given here? In the first sentence or two. The first the first two sentences.
If you surrender unto me, then giving up all engagements, then I shall protect you from all the sinful reactions. So that's like a
Sarvadharman parityajya. Mam ekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami ma sucha. So same thing is exactly same thing. I can see that it's being repeated here.
So in other words, Krishna is offering to wipe the slate clean. Actually. So no more sinful reactions. And then as we look through this, we see, so Srila Rupa Goswami says that the distresses from sinful activities are due both to the sins themselves and to sins committed in our past lives. So we're getting reactions for anything sinful we do in this life, and we're getting reactions from things that we've done in our previous lives. They come at us all of a sudden out of the blue, or sometimes they creep up on us slowly. And in this way, we are all experiencing these things. And the point is that ignorance is the problem. Because if we're ignorant about what to do and what not to do, then we will transgress Krishna's laws and will act on our own account and incur karmic reactions. But if we have actual knowledge that we can apply in our lives, then we can utilize our activities for surrendering to Krishna. Now, there's another important word that I'd like to point out to you, Narayan Prabhu. You said giving up all engagements, but here it said giving up all other engagements. So surrendering to Krishna is the real engagement. This is practical activity. And as we'll see as we read on later, this is described as practical devotional service. So when activities are performed, as we can see, Arjuna wasn't being advised to give up activities and leave the battlefield. He was advised, no, you carry on with your activities, but you do them for me. You do them as a sacrifice to please me. So in this way, I think we've given this example before, that Arjuna is saying, but Krishna, I've never heard of fighting as a sacrifice before. This is in one of the Acharya's commentaries. And Krishna points out that yes, your fighting is the sacrifice, because the Kaurava army, they are the fire, and your arrows are the ghee, and the bow Gandiva is your spoon, and you are the Brahmin. So now do your fighting, do this yajna of fighting for me. And this is a very nice sacrifice. So this is a way of thinking about our activities. When we try to do them for Krishna, then they become devotional service. So Krishna is advising, yes, do your duties, but do them always in full consciousness of me. Now here, this particular section is Krishna consciousness gives relief from all material distress. So here we see that not only we perform sinful activities due to ignorance, but ignorance is no excuse in the eyes of the law. If you're driving on the wrong side of the road because you don't know you're supposed to drive on the left, is that any excuse for not being arrested and punished by the police? Definitely not. So ignorance is no excuse. So actually it's our duty to get transcendental knowledge. And as Krishna points out, as Vyasadeva points out in his Vedanta Sutra, he says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, that now we've got the human form of life, it's our duty to inquire about the truth, the absolute truth. And what is that absolute truth? Janmadyasya, the absolute truth is that from which everything has emanated. So modern science is trying to find out the origin of everything, but the scientists are busy speculating that it may be like this or it may be like that, and they form some theories that somehow or other life has come from matter. But that's not very scientific, because we have no proof that matter has ever produced any life. But as we've also discussed, life does produce matter. We produce from our bodies, from our living bodies, we produce solids and liquids and gases. Everyone has experience? Yes? Please nod your head if you agree, or shake your head if you don't agree. We find this on a daily basis. As living beings, we're producing matter, but we have no experience of matter producing life. And we are meant to actually come to the Vedic conclusion, and that's why all the Vedas are there. Krishna's pointing out in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaischa sarve ahameva vedya. He says, by all the Vedas, I am what is to be known. He said, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I know the Veda as it is. So Krishna is giving us this information, and it's our duty as human beings to discover the truth. But if we ignore the Vedic information, which is coming directly from and indirectly from Krishna, then how we can expect to understand the truth and get rid of our ignorance? So that knowledge is required. So any comments or thoughts or questions on this point, or these points?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Prashant.
Prabhuji, just a quick query. I remember you once said like Prabhupada has a book of matter and antimatter. So Like I never read that book, but just a curiosity came in my mind when you said like scientists never only speculate and they cannot find any way of finding like matter has ever produced life or not. So Prabhuji, in that book, where Prabhupada has explained us what antimatter. Is there any way that human can see any antimatter in?
Yes, if you become Krishna conscious, you can see Krishna, and you can also ultimately see yourself. This is because Krishna is not made of matter. There's nothing, Krishna is not nothing, there's nothing material about Krishna. Krishna is spiritual matter. So we need to distinguish between spiritual matter and material matter. Spiritual matter, Krishna is inviting everyone to come back to his abode and not only see that abode, but live there. And that's an anti-material abode. And actually, the process of seeing is not with the eyes. The process of seeing, as children will know very well, when you go to school, the teachers talk a lot, don't they? So, so the process of seeing and getting knowledge and understanding is actually through the ears. We have to hear about Krishna, and then we can understand things very nicely. So that's this is a very important point. But who we hear from will depend what sort of knowledge we get. If we hear from Krishna's representative, then Krishna's representative will definitely give us information about Krishna and enable us to see clearly what is what and what is not. Actually, we have to learn to see through the ears. This is the Vedic process. So hearing is the most important process for the whole thing. Actually, without hearing, we're going to have a devil of a job trying to understand. If you don't listen to what your teacher says, how will you learn? What do you think, Radhika and Neri? If you ignore what your teacher's saying, are you going to be able to get the idea?
No.
No. So, but they're teaching material knowledge. But if we want spiritual knowledge, we have to go to someone who is actually fixed, who has got spiritual knowledge, because that's the whole principle. This is why the materialistic idea that somehow everything has come from nothing is a crazy idea, because you can't get something from nothing. If someone doesn't have any knowledge about spiritual life, how can they give it to you? If they only have their imagination to go with and trying to understand things in the dark, because if they have no knowledge, trying to simply feel their way around the material world and figure out what the world is all about, it's not going to happen. It's just groping in the dark. But the guru, the spiritual master, his job is to give light to those who are in the darkness of ignorance. So you may know this nice verse in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita at the end of the introduction. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That I was born in the darkest ignorance, but my spiritual master forced me to open my eyes by thrusting before them the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. So this is required. We require to actually get a bona fide guru who can enlighten us in understanding Krishna and in understanding what is our soul, what is the matter and what is antimatter. So we are all by nature antimatter. So this whole process is called the science of self-realization. And as we apply the science, we begin to understand more and more, yes, I'm not this material body. I am a spirit soul. And we begin to see by hearing everything in relationship with Krishna. So when we see everything in relationship with Krishna, then we're actually seeing antimatter, because we're seeing that actually everything is Krishna's. Everything belongs to Krishna. Everything is meant to be utilized for Krishna. And when you see the devotees, they also belong to Krishna, but the devotees are more or less conscious of Krishna. And the whole point of associating with devotees, so we become more rather than less conscious of Krishna. So if we want to actually see matter, we have to see ourselves, and we have to see ourselves in the right light in relationship with Krishna. And Krishna's invitation, as I mentioned, is for us to come back to the anti-material world and enjoy life with him on the platform of antimatter, on the platform of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. This is Krishna's invitation. So is that okay, Prashant Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, Prabhuji, but it like as you said, like it makes you more curious, like how that would be, that sentiment.
Good. That's the whole idea, because unless we're curious to understand, why will we actually try to approach the spiritual master and try to understand what we are? And that's normal for a human being. For example, you see all the stars in the sky, and it's normal for a human being to inquire, where has all this come from? What's out there? What is this world? That curiosity is very helpful in trying to make progress in spiritual life, because we need to know what I am. And if we don't know what we are, then we're just living animal life. The animals, they have no clue about hearing Bhagavad Gita from Krishna. They're simply involved in family life, eating, sleeping, mating, producing children, and defending, like that. And so two-legged carbon-based life forms, if you like, are, unless they're actually trying to make progress in understanding why we're suffering in this world, then it's simply animal life. People are trying to stop the suffering by all kinds of sticking plaster methods, like hospitals and fire engines and televisions, and trying to get liberation from doing the washing up by having a dishwasher or whatever. People are trying to get free from material suffering, but they're using sticking plasters as opposed to actually finding out what is the cause of the suffering. And here in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami is explaining that the cause of our suffering is ignorance. So therefore, we need to get real knowledge. We need to get transcendental knowledge. And the point that is being made here about Krishna consciousness brings immediate relief from all material suffering is being made here, that we've got two kinds of sinful activities. The ones we're suffering from at the moment, those are called mature. So when a child is young, they're not expected to know very much, but as they get older, they're called mature. So, and that way they get better understanding of the world. That's the idea. So when that, so these sinful reactions, when they're mature, then we actually are receiving, it's just like a ripened fruit. Another way of saying is when you plant a seed, what are the stages of that seed growing? So if there's a seed of some sinful desire in the heart, then what happens when a seed is planted? It takes time to grow into a tree. And it takes time for the tree to produce the fruits and the flowers. Yes? So, and when the fruits come first from the tree, they're not even yet ripe. But when they're ripe or mature, then you can actually taste them and experience the other, whether they're sweet or sour. So, but also inside the fruit, something else is happening. Inside the fruit, there are more seeds. And those seeds, when they get planted, they're also going to produce more trees and more fruits and flowers and more seeds. So the whole point about sinful reactions is they start off with a seed of sinful desire in the heart, and then they grow. And when because of those desires, we act. And then in due course, the reactions grow and develop the fruits of the action. So it's called fruitive activity. When we're acting to get the fruits of our own work, this is called fruitive activity. So we're getting the fruits, and inside the fruits, there are the seeds of more sinful activities in the form of desires that are planted in the heart. So it's a very subtle, continuous chain. But how to stop that chain of always having to take the sweet and sour fruits of our activities? And the process is transcendental knowledge. So this knowledge, who can say what Krishna says about transcendental knowledge in chapter 4 in Bhagavad Gita? What's the benefit of transcendental knowledge? Anyone like to say? This is something, do you know chapter 4 in the Sanskrit, Radhika? Okay, very important chapter. But in the English translation, Krishna says that the fire of transcendental knowledge can burn up the reactions to all our sinful activities. And just as a blazing fire can destroy any amount of, can burn up any amount of fuel that you supply to it, so the fire of transcendental knowledge is so powerful that that alone can burn up so much of our sinful reactions. So getting transcendental knowledge is very important. And if we know what to do and what not to do, then we don't have to keep creating more karma. If we know how to act for Krishna, then actually we can be very happy and peaceful and live without all the aggro. So anyway, any thoughts on that so much? Anyone, any questions or comments on this? Oh, and Amit is here. Hare Krishna, Amit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
My humble obeisances to you, Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, all good, Srila Prabhupada.
So,
Sorry, Prabhuji, I was a bit late. I was not, I was late to join, but I'm
okay. Well, as they say in India, better late than never. Is it not?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so we're just discussing this point, and Prabhupada's giving another example to help us understand about these sinful activities stored within us, for which we haven't yet suffered. They're considered immature, they haven't yet ripened. And he gives this example about a criminal. He acts but is not yet arrested for them. And as soon as he's detected, arrest is awaiting him. So similarly, for some of our sinful activities, we're awaiting distresses in the future. And for others which are mature, we're suffering at the present moment. So is that making some sense to everyone? Any comments or questions or thoughts?
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, please.
There's the sinful activities of our past lives are many lives in past, can those the karma that we're gonna come across because of the sins that we have committed, I don't know, in past or in past lives, can the fruit of those sins, so karma, that be erased?
Yes.
I read somewhere by that devotional service, and by being in bhakti, it could be erased, and I think that is true, right?
Yes, in different ways, because as Krishna is explaining in chapter 4 in Bhagavad Gita, that the fire of transcendental knowledge can burn up all the reactions to our past activities. So having knowledge means not just theoretical knowledge, but applying that knowledge. It's called the appliance of science. When we start to see everything in relation to Krishna, how everything belongs to Krishna, and everything, including ourselves, belong to Krishna. So we should engage ourselves and everything in the service of Krishna. And this is called surrender. So in the first line of this paragraph, Prabhupada explains, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that one should surrender to him, giving up all other engagements. The Lord also gives his word there that he will protect such surrendered souls from the reactions of all sinful activities. How about that?
Yeah,
Does
no,
that...
that's I think perfect. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the point. And learning how to surrender to Krishna, there's a process by which we surrender to Krishna. It's called the surrendering process. And this is called Bhakti Yoga. By rendering loving service to Krishna under the guidance of the spiritual master and Krishna, then actually this is the process whereby we come to understand Krishna. And the more we hear and try to understand what is what and what is not, then actually the more clearly we can give up all our misunderstandings and our misconceptions that prevent us from actually fully surrendering to Krishna. So hearing is the first and foremost of all processes, and hearing and chanting is the means by which we gradually develop our Krishna consciousness. We hear about Krishna and we chant about Krishna, and automatically we remember about Krishna. So the principle is in two lines, actually. There are these regulative principles we'll see. But can anyone say, what are the two principles which are the most important principles which we should be fully conscious of? And if these two things are covered, then everything else is a success.
Prabhuji, always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna.
Absolutely. So that's the idea. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So actually, if this is done, then all regulative principles are covered. So, and when we try to do everything for Krishna in a loving mood, then we make nice progress. And if we want to develop love for someone, can you love someone if you don't know anything about them? It's not possible. So the more we hear about Krishna and the more we understand about Krishna, naturally we develop more love and affection for Krishna. So hearing is so important, and chanting about Krishna is so important, because this way we can always remember Krishna. How can we always remember Krishna if we don't know anything about him? So therefore, Lord Chaitanya has explained that our duty is to try to always hear and chant and remember Krishna, and try to help others also remember Krishna. So this is why we try to distribute and discuss these nice books with other people. These very practical teachings of Krishna consciousness. So any other questions or comments, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
About, so we want to avoid sinful activities. So we want, and then which is like giving up all other engagements, and then we think, okay, we need to be Krishna conscious and we want to do activities for Krishna. So how to do that? So thing is like, I mean, some part of the process you already explained, where we chant, we hear about Krishna, we eat prasadam, like some hours of our time is for Krishna. But other activities which we do, and last week also, in answer to Prashant Prabhu's question, you said you need to be in family life, you need to do all those responsibility. Then, like, if I'm dropping off my daughter and picking her up, how that can be Krishna conscious activity? If I'm most importantly, if I'm working 8 hours or 8 or 9 hours in my job, where I don't remember most of it, maybe I don't remember Krishna, then how can I say that it's Krishna consciousness? And then mind takes it further. It wants to enjoy it, and then it says, oh, this can also be Krishna conscious activity and something else, for example. So how to sort of on a given day, your particular day, how we can have our day planned around Krishna consciousness, or giving up all other engagements, and be avoiding those sinful reactions.
Okay, well, let's take a few points that you've mentioned. Who do you belong to?
Krishna.
And who does your car belong to?
Krishna. Okay.
And who does your daughter belong to?
Krishna. And then Prabhu.
So the point is, we have our duties to perform, but if we do them in consciousness of Krishna and think, my dear Krishna, I'm doing my duties, please let me do them in a way that is pleasing to you.
Yeah.
It's very simple, just like we're eating, and we prepare the food with love for Krishna and accept the remnants, because it's actually the consciousness in which we do something. And if it's done with a view to pleasing Krishna as a matter of duty, then this is what Krishna expects that we develop. So how to do that is called practice. So if we practice trying to do everything for Krishna, practice gradually makes perfect. So if we want to become perfectly Krishna conscious, we have to practice doing all the duties that we have, but doing them because Krishna, this is actually my duty. Let me do it to please you because you like it when I do my duty. And if I'm doing it in a mood of pleasing you, then actually this is called bhakti. So Arjuna, he wasn't advised to give up fighting and killing people. That was his duty. But Krishna said, no, you do it, but you do it for me. You do it to please me. And this is, because generally going around killing people isn't a very auspicious activity. Certainly it's not generally our duty. But Arjuna was doing whatever he was doing. Just like Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Yat karosi yadashnasi, yaj jahosi dadasiya, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. All that you do, all that you eat, all activities that you perform, all sacrifices you perform, all austerities, do them as an offering for me. So how to do them for Krishna requires getting spiritual knowledge. It requires taking guidance from a spiritual master. And different people have different duties to do. Just like Ragini, she's got nice duties to do looking after the children. But she can also understand that I belong to Krishna and my children belong to Krishna. And it's my duty to try to help them develop nicely and develop also their Krishna consciousness, how to help them grow nicely. They have to eat nicely, so she has to teach them, like Ishika, she has to teach Ishika how to eat nicely so she'll develop nicely, and also how to do everything in a mood of pleasing Krishna. So the science is there, and this is something we have to practice. Radhika, she's growing nicely. She's encouraged nicely by her parents that, you always try to remember Krishna. And as we learn and try to understand more what we're doing, then this is making progress because we're getting rid of our misunderstandings. That's the problem. We have so much ignorance, we have so much misunderstanding. And when a child first goes to school, what's the problem? The problem is they have to learn so many things, but they have to give up so many nonsense ideas about what is what. Because when a child first goes to school, what's it all about? What's everything all about? It's all about me, 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 me. But actually, there's a lot more in this world than me, 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 me. And I have to learn to live according to practical principles so that I can live happy. I have to understand there are consequences to my activities. There's a karmic reaction. And I have to learn how to cooperate nicely with others and follow the authorities, take guidance from them and make progress so that I can live happily. And ultimate authority is who? Who's the ultimate authority?
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, Krishna is the ultimate authority, and the other representatives, like the king or the head of state, are meant to be representatives of that ultimate authority. But the guru is most definitely the representative, that ultimate authority. And children, they have to take their first gurus as their mother and father. And then also learn that there's not just our daily life to take care of, but there's our spiritual life to take care of. So coming to understand how everything is related to Krishna, how we are related to Krishna, how the whole world is related to Krishna. This is called transcendental knowledge. So this sort of knowledge is required, because then we can learn to see everything in relationship with Krishna, and we can learn to do everything in relationship with Krishna. Just like we have to take care of our bodies. Why? Because they belong to Krishna, and they're meant to be used in Krishna's service. So you have to rise in the morning, you have to brush your teeth, you have to shower and do whatever you have to do. You have to go to the bathroom, because it's all about maintaining the body, because it's Krishna's. So it should be looked after nicely. So just like you have your car, you look after it nicely, but if you do it because it's mine for me to enjoy, then that's invoking karma. But if we do it because this is Krishna's and I must use it in Krishna's service for doing all my duties, then that is Krishna consciousness. Is this making some sense? Anyone agree? Anyone disagree?
No, Prabhuji, totally agree with you.
Okay. Is it all right with you, Narayan Prabhu?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I mean, these are the questions we're still struggling with, and very helpful explanation as well as the proper point-wise details. So thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Okay, good. Any other comments or thoughts or questions?
Prabhuji, one question, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, we are doing a job from 9 to 6. What should be our mindset, or what should be our thinking when we are doing our job between 9 to 6? It should be like I should do more. I need to focus on my job, so that the job I'm doing for Krishna. Yeah, this job I'm doing for myself. what should be the mindset for when I'm working from 9 to 6, that 9 hours?
Okay, you have your duty. You
Yeah.
have your duties to do at your work, yes?
Yeah.
So do those duties with a view to pleasing Krishna. If those are your duties to perform your job activities and earn money, your duty is to maintain your family nicely and to provide for your family. But
Okay.
who does the family belong to?
Yeah, that's belong to Krishna. Yeah.
And who do you belong to?
Yes, I belong to Krishna.
Okay. And activities, they can be done for our own personal interest,
Yeah.
or they can be done for the interest of Krishna. So Krishna wants to see your family nicely looked after by you, and Krishna wants to see that the children grow very nicely, your wife and your children, they grow very happily and nicely in Krishna consciousness. So maintaining your family is very much a part of that.
But Prabhuji, no, between 9 to 6, I belong to company. I belong to my manager.
No, you're on loan to them. But actually, your company and your manager, they also belong to Krishna.
Okay.
And in the course of your daily activities, you're working with all these electronic devices. What is that electricity? That is Bhumerapo, Nalo, Vayu, Kam, Mano, Buddhireva Cha. Krishna is describing these different material elements. He says they're my separated material energy. All the elements belong to Krishna. And all the elements are working according to Krishna's direction. You're working with cooperation with Krishna's natural laws. You can't go against Krishna's laws and start programming something that doesn't work. You have to follow logical, reasonable language in your work that you're doing in your programming. And you have to work according to the laws of physics. Is it not? So those laws by which the electrons are all organized nicely and you're tapping the keys on your keyboard and making things happen, you can't just think that I'll tap whatever keys I want. No, there are principles involved and you have to work according to those principles. And those principles are ultimately provided by Krishna. Natural laws that when you press a button, something happens. It connects the switches like that. So, and that enables Krishna's electricity or fire to flow. So everything you're doing is actually in every aspect of it connected to Krishna. And who does all the money in all these banking systems who you're working for belong to? It belongs to Krishna.
Yeah.
And so in this way, if we learn to see everything that it belongs to Krishna, and that we have all our individual duties to do, think of Lord Brahma. Think of Lord Brahma. So Brahma, he's got a big job to do. He has to create an entire universe. You're creating systems by which some little parts of this big universe can operate nicely, function nicely. And Brahma is doing his job of trying to make the whole universe function nicely according to these natural physical laws. So you have to work in cooperation with nature's laws at every stage of the game. Is it not? What is there that you're working with that is not connected to Krishna? Is there anything non-Krishna?
No problem. Everything is belong to Krishna. Yeah, that's right.
Everything is working according to Krishna's laws.
Yeah.
And Krishna is giving you the intelligence to be able to act in those different ways. And Krishna is giving you the memory to enable you to remember how the principles work and how to do everything. And Krishna is giving your senses energy to be able to function in so many different ways. By Krishna's permission, we have fully working material bodies. We're able to eat, we're able to digest the food, we're able to pass stool and urine. But if Krishna withdraws these facilities, we can't do any of them. We are able to move our arms and legs, we're able to speak, we're able to walk, we're able to use our brains. All these things are provided by Krishna. There's nothing which is not provided. So at every moment, everything is connected to Krishna. So how can we forget Krishna? Is it possible? Actually, we have to simply look into things in some more depth of understanding. And how do we look into them? We have to look into them using the ears, not the eyes. We have to hear about Krishna. And this is why Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita. And he's saying, touch Shrinu, just hear from me, because this is for your benefit. So the more we read and study and discuss Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the more clearly we will see Krishna. The more clearly we will be able to see antimatter. The more clearly we'll be able to see ourselves and even this body that we're living in. I mean, the eyes that we have, what fantastically incredible instruments those are. Who can say they've developed by chance? Or the ears, fantastic things. And the tongue, to be able to taste incredible foodstuffs and to be able to vibrate sound according to our wishes. And the nose, to be able to smell different things. And the sense of touch. All these things, the scientists are saying these have all just happened by chance. Something just evolved out of nothing. What crazy ideas. But actually we can understand that because Krishna has eyes, Krishna has ears, Krishna has senses, and he's given us also these facilities. But actually the senses, all of them, the sense of smell, nose, seeing, hearing, tasting, vibrating sound, touch, those are facilities given to us by Krishna. But as living beings, as spirit souls, we also have spiritual senses. And when we use those senses in the service of Krishna, then our senses become spiritualized or antimatterized. Actually, simply we have to utilize them for Krishna. And then they regain their natural spiritual quality of making us happy and enabling us to be free from all kinds of material distress. That's what this particular section is about. Can we just scroll up to the top heading of this section, please, Rupesh Prabhu? If you're there. To the top, just the top of this paragraph.
Yeah.
Yes. This chapter is called Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. So one of the characteristics is it gives relief from all material distress. So we need to see the context of this. These Rupa Goswami has explained there are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, which are as follows. Pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. It's the beginning of all auspiciousness, and it automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure.
Leave it.
And it's rarely achieved. And those in pure devotional service are not in the least bit interested in the idea of liberation, and that this pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. So we're just discussing this first paragraph how Krishna consciousness gives relief from all material distress, and explaining how it works by getting knowledge, begun using that knowledge to engage in the service of Krishna and get free from all the sinful reactions, past, present, and future, which are causing us in the past, causing us at the present, and causing us in the future to experience sinful reactions. Is that okay?
Yes, bro. Very powerful, bro. It's very, very powerful.
Okay. So, any other points anyone would like to discuss or ask about, please? Reading these books is so helpful. And you know what Prabhupada said about reading these books? He said, don't just read it once, read it once, read it twice, read it 3 times. And if you still have any questions, read it again. Because everything is there so nicely. And if we take advantage of this, this is why these books are here. They're actually meant for giving us transcendental knowledge. They're giving us the means to see everything very clearly, to see Krishna clearly, to see ourselves clearly, to see the world clearly, and act in clear knowledge and full consciousness. Okay. So,
Prabhuji, you had explained one analogy that when you were explaining, like Arjuna's Gandiva was spoon, Arjuna was Brahmana, and arrow. Like you had. I missed that part, Prabhu. Can you tell me that bit once again?
yes, Krishna is telling Arjuna that actually, yes, this fighting, you can do it as a sacrifice. So in the sacrifice, you have the fire, you have the ghee, you have the spoon, and you have the Brahmin. Yes?
Yes, Prabhu.
So Krishna is saying the Kaurava army, they're the fire, and your arrows are the ghee, and your bow Gandiva is the spoon, and you are the Brahmin. So now do this sacrifice nicely to please me. Because the whole purpose of all sacrifice is to please Yajna. Yajna is another name of Krishna. That
Sure.
Yajna is meant for satisfying Krishna. So we should do our activities to please Krishna and actually be happy, because it's just like we all have this daily experience. If you put your food into the mouth, then the stomach is happy. And when the stomach is happy, the rest of you has energy. And if you don't put any food into the mouth, into the stomach, then how you can expect the rest of the body to cooperate nicely? Everyone gets their nourishment by eating food. And who's provided the food?
Stomach.
Krishna. Krishna has given us the food, and he's giving us the opportunity to understand this simple principle. And just like we've also seen the principle about how if you water the root of the tree, immediately all the branches and twigs and leaves, they're all immediately nourished. So these 2 examples there, we have to water the root, and that is Krishna. And we have to feed the stomach. So by feeding the stomach, automatically you get strength and energy in all the parts of your body. So serving Krishna, this is the point. Krishna is the root. Krishna is the basis of everything. The stomach has to be satisfied. Otherwise, it's not a happy day. Is it right?
Yes, bro. Thank you, bro.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, well, let's leave this first paragraph, but I'd be very happy if you'd like to read this paragraph yourselves at some point, maybe before next week, and we can discuss some more, because there's, how much more of this paragraph is there, or of this section, relief from material distress? Okay, so there's a
Yeah.
bit to read.
Yeah, lot more are there.
Yeah. So we're just trying to go through it before we get to part 2, which is Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. And really, if we try to understand this little by little by little, then it will make a big improvement in our lives.
Yes.
And if we can appreciate these principles and think, okay, well, let me try to do that. Let me try to go to work. Let me try to drive the kids to school. Let me try to do it for Krishna and see what happens. Because if we understand how we have to do our duties to satisfy Krishna, then there's no problem. Shall we discuss a little bit about Lord Varahadev?
Yes, please, Prabhu.
Okay, so let's have a look. I sent some nice nectar out on this. Is anybody here in the special Vaishnava Days group?
Yes, Prabhu. I think Narayan Prabhu, you are there, right? I am there. Prashant Prabhu, Narayan Prabhu, are you there or not in that group? WhatsApp group?
Not in the Vaishnavas group. We are on the Nectar of Devotion, I think.
Okay, because there's another group called Special Vaishnava Days, which is actually for getting some more in-depth information. I just put a little bit of taster information in the other groups, but in the Special Vaishnava Days, we go into more detail. And maybe if, yeah,
Prabhuji, I'm sharing that.
let's have a look at these pictures. That would be very nice. And then we can discuss something of this pastime of Lord Varaha. So if we go up a little more to the beginning, that's the one. It starts there. Can we make it a full screen? Okay. So it all began, you know, Varaha is the boar incarnation, Lord Boar, Lord Varaha. And he appeared to simultaneously lift the earth out of its fallen orbit. And that earth had been fallen out of its orbit because of the mining activities of, who was that demon?
Hiranyaksha.
Hiranyaksha, yeah. Really nasty piece of work. And who was Hiranyaksha related to?
Hiranyakashipu and Jai and Vijay.
Yes, actually, so it starts off here that Diti, she actually conceived her pregnancy at a very inauspicious moment. She was overtaken with desire, and so she begged Kardama Muni to give her a child, which he said, you should wait a while because at this time Lord Shiva is riding with his ghosts. And although Lord Shiva is related to you because your sister is married to Lord Shiva, Sati is married to Lord Shiva, actually, if he won't be pleased by performing this act at a forbidden time. But Diti was overwhelmed, and Kardama Muni, he satisfied her. But then it was clear that the embryos in her womb would be great demons. And they would actually bring about so much misery to all the inhabitants of the universe. So Diti became very afraid that her embryos, her children, will be cursed to be such bad demons. but Kashyapa gave her the benediction that actually your children will be killed by the Supreme Lord, and this way they'll attain liberation. And not only that, but the grandson of one of these children will be a very, very great devotee of the Lord. So who knows who that child was? Radhika, do you know who that was? Who can say?
Hiranyakashipu's son, Radhika.
Prahalad Maharaj?
Yes, absolutely.
I was thinking of it, but I wasn't really sure. That's why I didn't see it.
Okay. So anyway, Diti, she actually held the pregnancy in her womb for 100 years because she wanted to delay causing all that trouble for as long as possible. But then eventually she had to give birth, and these two demons, Hiranyakashipu was conceived first, and Hiranyaksha, his brother, was considered the younger brother. So he came out of the womb first, and Hiranyakashipu being conceived first, it's called first in, first out. Last out. So Hiranyakashipu is considered the older brother, and Hiranyaksha was the younger brother. But both of them were trouble on two legs for the whole universe. So let's move on to the next slide then, please. So this all goes back to the time when the four Kumaras, who were very great sages and saints, they came to Vaikuntha. Now these four Kumaras, they're very ancient sages, and they displeased their father, Lord Brahma, because Lord Brahma, his job is to populate the universe. And his first children were these four Kumaras. And when he wanted them to get married and have kids, they said, no, we want to stay brahmacharis. We don't want to get involved in family life. So Brahma, he became very angry. And from his forehead, from that anger, Rudra or Lord Shiva appeared. So he was the second child of Lord Brahma. So, but these sages, they wanted to stay as brahmacharis, and they kept themselves in the form of very young boys. And so because as little naked young boys, they could go anywhere and nobody would argue with them or bar them from going anywhere. So they came to the gates of Vaikuntha, and there they met Jai and Vijay, who were the gatekeepers at the door of Vaikuntha. And the boys requested, please let us in. We've come here to see Lord Narayan. And the gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, they were bewildered. They couldn't understand who these boys were. And they said, look, you're just young boys. You couldn't possibly have qualified yourself with all the sage ascetics and the tapasyas and penances that are needed to qualify yourself to see Lord Narayan. So better you go away. Don't worry. Don't trouble us. We're not letting you in. But the boys, they were very upset, actually, these sages. And they said, please, let us in. We've come here to see Lord Narayan. And they became very angry that they haven't been allowed in to see Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha. And so they cursed Jai and Vijay that you people, you've got the wrong attitude. You're supposed to be here as residents of Vaikuntha. So why are you stopping us from coming in to see Lord Narayan? You have the wrong mentality. And so the sages, they cursed Jai and Vijay to become demons in the material world. So at that point, let's go to the next slide. Because what happened is that Lord Narayan came on the scene and he apologized to the four sages, and he said, actually, these sages, it's my fault because they're my servants. So I have to take responsibility for them. And the sages, because, can we scroll up a little bit so we can see the full picture? We can see here that the boys, they're so happy to see Lord Narayan. And actually, you can see this one at the front. He's actually smelling the fragrance of Krishna's lotus feet, which are adorned with sandalwood and tulsi leaves. But the sages, just by smelling the aroma of Krishna's lotus feet, they became purified of their materialistic ideas of impersonalism, and they at once became attracted to devotional service. So although previously they'd been impersonalists, in this way they actually became great devotees of the Lord. And the Lord, he told Jai and Vijay that actually you have offended my devotees here. So they've been cursed by you, so I can't stop the curse. But I'll give you the choice to take birth 7 times in the material world as my devotees, or 3 times as my enemies. So the 4 Kumaras, they consulted among themselves and they decided, well, it would be better to take 3 births. The Jai and Vijay, they decided that it would be better to take 3 births and they could get back to Vaikuntha and do their service more quickly. So in this way, the doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay, they entered into the material world, and they are the ones, Jai and Vijay, who entered into the womb of Diti, later to be born as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So just this next slide after this one is also very interesting, because the next chapter in the Bhagavatam, where all this information is given, is where the 4 Kumaras are able to see the glorious nature of the Vaikuntha world, where everyone is actually in a delightful 4-handed form, like Lord Narayan. And there are males and females there, but they're not their business, even though they have their sweethearts and they travel together. Still, they're much more interested in loving devotional service to Lord Narayan, who you can see here with Lakshmi. And you have to forgive the creases in the middle, because that's the best photograph I could actually take of the Bhagavatam, because I couldn't get it completely flat. But there was a beautiful description there in the Bhagavatam of the kingdom of God. And it is really mind-blowing to read that. So I hope you find that an interesting part to read. And it's a very beautiful place. Okay, so let's go back to the story. Next picture is Hiranyaksha. He'd caused the earth to fall out of its orbit. And so it was actually it had fallen into the Garbhodak ocean at the base of the universe. It's described that the universe is shaped like a sphere or an egg. And the lower half of it is filled with water from the perspiration of the Lord. And the upper half is filled with space and the different planets. Lord Brahma has created the different planets to provide living accommodation for all the different living entities within the universe. But the earth had, in this way, been unbalanced by the mining activities of Hiranyaksha, and had fallen down into the base of the universe, into the ocean. And it had gone down to the bottom of the ocean. So Lord Brahma, he was approached by Manu, who is the father of mankind, to resolve the problem of how to get the earth back in its proper place in the universe. And while Brahma was contemplating this, he was thinking that I don't know how to do this, better let the Almighty Lord do this. And then at that moment, a small, tiny creature came out of his nostril and hovered in the sky. And it's described that at first, that creature was no bigger than the upper portion of a thumb. but then that creature grew very largely and to a huge form. And all the sages and Manu and Brahma were discussing, what is this? And they're discussing, is it some manifestation of the material energy? And Brahma, he could understand that actually, no, this is an avatar of Vishnu, and he's very kindly come to rescue the earth. So he came in the form of a boar, because a boar or hog is very good at burrowing in dirty places. And so Lord Varaha, he was appreciated by all the sages, and they were singing the Vedic hymns to glorify him and appreciate him. And Lord Boar, he was vibrating a roaring sound in appreciation of the nice Vedic hymns that were being offered to him. And it's described that of all the hymns that were being, the Vedic hymns, the most important was the Brihad Naradiya Purana verse, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Lord Varaha, his form grew to a very big form, and he was swatting the clouds with his hoofs, and he dived into the Garbhadak ocean. And in this way, he found out the earth at the base of the universe, and he picked it up, resting it on his tusks. And here you see this very nice picture, but we should always be aware that the body of the Supreme Lord is never material. And whatever form, whatever incarnation he takes, is simply to perform some important pastime for the welfare of the living beings in the universe. And his body is no way material. It's the same Satchitananda Vigraha, a form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. There's nothing material about the form of the Lord, even if he assumes the form of a hog or a fish or a horse or half man, half lion, or any of the forms in which he expands his body. They're all spiritual forms. So he picked up the earth, and then he was challenged by Hiranyaksha to fight, because Hiranyaksha was going all over the universe looking for some suitable person to fight with him. And Indra fled from Hiranyaksha because he knew this demon was so powerful, there was nothing he could do to fight with him. And Hiranyaksha, he came across Varuna, and he challenged Varuna to a fight. But Varuna said, I'm old. I can't fight with you. But the person who will actually give you sporting pleasure and be able to successfully fight with you and even kill you is there at the base of the universe. So if you go now, you can find him and you can have a suitable fight. So Hiranyaksha became very pleased because he wanted to always show off his fighting prowess. And he came across Lord Varaha. And Lord Varaha, he carefully placed, in spite of Hiranyaksha insulting him and challenging him to fight, Lord Varaha patiently bore all these insults, and he very carefully placed the earth to float by its own energy on the surface of the Garbhadak ocean. And then he decided it's time now to fight with Hiranyaksha. So let's have a look at the next slide then, please. So here you can see the earth resting on the ocean there, on the water. And Lord Varaha has picked up his club, and Hiranyaksha has got his club, and they engaged in a very serious fight. Can we make that a bit bigger, please, Rupesh Prabhu? Yeah, it's a really serious fight they're having now. So in this one, the fight was taking place between Lord Varahadev and Hiranyaksha. And they were fighting like two opposing vultures, each seeking their own victory. And at one point, the demon, he was trying to smash the body of Lord Varaha with his gigantic club, and his club hit Lord Varaha so furiously that Lord Varaha's club actually slipped from his hand. But Lord Varaha, he picked it up, and Hiranyaksha was so expert in mystical powers that he created all sorts of weapons of pus and blood falling out of the sky. But Lord Varaha, he invoked his Sudarshan chakra, and with that he illuminated all the darkness of ignorance and dispelled all the illusions that Hiranyaksha had brought about by his mystic power. So anyway, Hiranyaksha, then he threw his club very forcefully at the body of Lord Varahadev. But Lord Varahadev simply caught it in his left hand, and then he offered it back to the demon to try again. And this made the demon even more furious, because he really wanted to kill Lord Varaha. And then what happened was, after some more fighting, then Lord Varaha, with his left hoof, he simply slapped Hiranyaksha nonchalantly, not very seriously, on the side of the neck. And in this way, the demon's eyes and fell out of their sockets, and his arms and limbs became dislocated, and he fell down dead into the Garbadak Ocean. So let's have a look at the next slide, please. There we are. They're having that really furious fight. It's a lovely picture, this one. This is really amazing. And you can see the demigods in the background looking on in amazement at this incredible fight between Lord Varaha and the demon Hiranyaksha. So in this way, Hiranyaksha was killed by Lord Varaha, and all the demigods came, headed by Lord Brahma, and praised the Lord and showered so many flowers on him, and offered beautiful Vedic hymns and appreciating him. And Lord Brahma said, what a blessed death this demon has had, because he's been killed by the hand of the Supreme Lord. And they noticed that Hiranyaksha's body was still glowing as if it was still alive. And they saw that one of Lord Varaha's legs was still touching the body of the demon and giving that body life, even though he was actually dead. So coming on from there, this is how Lord Varaha appeared for the rescuing the earth. And then after all the prayers had been offered, the Lord returned back to his own abode of Vaikuntha. So I just thought I'd share that little story with you, because it's an amazing pastime. Anybody got any thoughts or comments or anything they'd like to add about that nice story, please? Anybody still?
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Such a detailed explanation about the story, Prabhu. We loved it, Prabhu. Your knowledge and your storytelling and whatever you tell is amazing, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. It's a very great pleasure to hear and chant about the wonderful activities of the Supreme Lord. It's a nice opportunity. Anybody else like to add any details or any questions about that?
Thank you so much, Prabhu. As Rupesh Prabhu said, it's so nice. I mean, we thought we just should just keep listening to you. I mean, some parts of it we knew, but the way you explained it is so amazing. Like you want to we were relishing the whole thing, like how you were explaining how beautiful Vaikunta planet could be, and those pictures also so helpful, right? You just feel attracted to that planet or the opulence of those things there. So that's so helpful, and yeah, thank you so much. It's really like, because we have Varaha Dwadashi, right, tomorrow, so it's such a
Today.
Today, yes, bro.
Today, yeah.
Yeah, Ekadashi is today, so yeah, today, yes, bro. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Well, thank you very much indeed, everybody.
And
yes.
And Prabhuji, it was amazing to know that just by smelling the fragrance of the lotus feet of the Lord, the four Kumaras, they become, like devotees, great devotees.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But actually, this is the nature that it's very rare someone becomes a devotee by direct contact with the Lord. But the four Kumaras, they have their own disciplic succession, the Kumara Sampradaya. And there are four Sampradayas within the universe. One is from Lord Brahma, which we're in, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, coming down from Brahma also to Madhvacharya, whose disappearance day was the other day. And actually, it comes from Brahma to Narada to Vyasadeva, and Madhvacharya. He also met up with Srila Vyasadeva and took knowledge and education from him. And then the other members of the disciplic succession coming down to Ishwarapuri and Madhavendra Puri, and then his disciple Ishwarapuri, and then Lord Chaitanya. He demonstrated the important principle of taking a spiritual master. So he became the disciple of Ishwarapuri, and then from Ishwarapuri to Lord Chaitanya, and then from Lord Chaitanya to the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, and in this way, so on down to Krishnadas Kaviraj and the Narottam Das Thakur, and so on through the disciplic session to Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Gaurkishore Das Babaji, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So this knowledge is coming down intact through the Brahma Sampradaya, and also it's being presented through the Ramanuja Sampradaya, which is coming from Lakshmi, the Sri Sampradaya. And the four Kumaras, their knowledge is coming down through, I forget the famous Acharya, what is his name? Anyway, there is that Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya from Lord Shiva also. So these four Sampradayas exist within the universe, and the prominent Sampradaya at the moment is the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, which we're in. Oh yes, Nimbakacharya. He's the very prominent representative of the four Kumaras. And he actually met with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these are very significant to help us understand actually how transcendental knowledge descends ultimately from Krishna. And if we want to get transcendental knowledge, we have to link with the Sampradaya, which enables us to connect directly. And the spiritual master, does anybody here among us wear glasses, spectacles?
Yes, Prabhuji, I do.
Okay, all right. Well, here's a very interesting point. I think I might have mentioned this before, that the spectacles, they're the transparent via media through which you can see everything very clearly. Everything comes into sharp focus. So the spiritual master is described also as the transparent via media, because by hearing from him, we can see everything in clear perspective.
Yes, I think that's very appropriate, very spot on analysis of how to look at things in real perspective. Because at the end of the day, we live from point A to point B, and we don't know where we were before point A, where we will be after point B. And this time, this is Dev Durlabh Manushya Sharir that has been given to us for a reason, and we should make the most of it. And that perspective is really good. That that clear view, sharp focus through a guru's blessings.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. A nice example. Okay.
Yeah, we did it.
Okay, anybody else have any points they'd like to add before we maybe wind up for the night? Because it's now nearly 20 to 9. We've gone on a little.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I was sharing my screen. This is the last sloka, third canto, 19th chapter, and this is the chapter for fighting between the Vara and so what is the last? No, last sloka of this chapter. It says, "This is the most sacred narrative confer extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all object one of the desire. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one vital organ action. One who listens to it, the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord." So thank you so much, Prabhuji. So why I'm showing this screen, because you have told very good story, the fight of the Vara avatar and the Hiranyaks. So in that last sloka of that said, if someone is listening this story, in this battlefield, his life is transferred to supreme abode of Lord. Oh dear son.
Yes. And even while we're alive, this sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. And if you have to go into battle,
battle with Maya.
yeah, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. So yes, these are all blessings given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very helpful to actually carefully go through it from the very beginning and step by step by step. That way we can get full benefit from the benefit of the Bhagavatam, and trying to discuss it with other devotees is extremely helpful. So, and here Prabhupada mentions in the purports, if you just scroll up a little bit on this, please, Sachin Prabhu, devotees are generally attracted by the narratives or the pastimes of the Lord. And even though they do not prosecute austerities or meditation, this very process of hearing attentively about the pastimes of the Lord will endow them with innumerable benefits. And if one continues to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narratives of the pastimes of the Lord at the end of this life, one is sure to be transferred to the eternal transcendental abode of the Lord. And again, we see this way hearing is so important. Thus, hearers are benefited both ultimately and for as long as they are in the material world. That is the supreme, sublime result of engaging in devotional service. The beginning of devotional service is to spare some time and listen to Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommended 5 items of devotional service, namely, to serve the devotees of the Lord, to chant Hare Krishna, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to worship the deity of the Lord, and to live in a place of pilgrimage. Just performing these 5 activities can deliver one from the miserable condition of material life. Powerful stuff.
Very cool.
How to live in a place of pilgrimage. That place of pilgrimage, Krishna says at one point, he says, actually, I'm not in Vaikuntha and I'm not in thy temples. I'm in those places where my devotees are gathered together to hear and discuss my qualities and pastimes. So this is very important. So having the association of devotees actually is an auspicious place of pilgrimage where the Lord is personally present, where the devotees are hearing and discussing his transcendental qualities, forms, and pastimes. So we should do this more often.
Yes, bro. Indeed. Prabhuji, thank you so much. Prabhuji, we can't thank you enough for, telling us this pure and sublime knowledge, Thank you so much to you and Srila Prabhupada Prabhu. I feel like we can't thank you enough for giving this knowledge. Thank you so much.
Well, the thanks are due to Srila Prabhupada, actually, because without Prabhupada explaining it to us, I couldn't even begin to have a clue what it was all about. So Prabhupada is kindly making it readily available to all of us in his books and his teachings. And by just trying to link with Srila Prabhupada in this way, by this very easy way, he's given us these nice literatures and so many nice lectures and morning walks and conversations to help us understand about Krishna. So this is Prabhupada's kirtan. Actually, we're engaging in kirtan, in Shravanam and Kirtanam, by hearing and chanting about Krishna. But Prabhupada's books and teachings are the sweetest kirtan because he's a 100% pure devotee of the Lord. And therefore he's giving us straight, without any adulteration, simply Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you all very much indeed. And Amit Prabhu, one day we can hopefully catch up about your adventures that you had recently in India.
Yes, Prabhuji. When are you next in Bristol, Prabhuji? I mean, in Swindon?
That I don't know. But I know that I'm planning on being there on the 7th of July because there's something
Yay.
particularly
Haribol.
happening.
It's Rath Yatra. Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra. Prabhuji is coming with the children Rath as well, and we'll have amazing full transcendental kirtan and great time.
Is there a theatre in Swindon or Bristol, 7th of July?
Swindon.
I think there's one in Bristol as well around that time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, there's one every year, and around July time also.
Yeah, around that time, it's in many cities actually, but it's like a week after and before, so it will be like in July time and, last week of June as well, and sometimes in September as well. So all over England, a couple of cities, we have Rath Yatras.
Well, Rath Yatra, because there are so many Rath Yatra festivals, everybody wants to have one. They go right throughout the summer and even into the autumn.
Yes.
So, because the Brighton Rath Yatra is in, I think, September, and sometimes they go into October.
Yeah.
So, because there's so many chariots, but they need to be here and there and there and there and there. So they have to choose their weekends carefully. And just like in last year in Glasgow and Edinburgh, they had Saturday Glasgow Rath Yatra and Sunday Edinburgh Rath Yatra. So, just try to organize it nicely so that all the devotees can participate as much as possible and everyone can benefit.
Absolutely.
So very ecstatic.
Very
And
good.
even the police in Glasgow, because the weather was supposed to be absolutely atrocious that weekend. The weather forecast, they were broadcasting messages even on the signs on the motorway saying heavy rain expected. Please be very careful about traveling. And this police lady, she was organizing a whole group of big burly policemen to come along with us on the Rath Yatra procession. And she was saying, I'm amazed that you've had such nice weather. There was no rain. She was really shocked. So I explained to her that, yes, there are personalities higher up in the universe who arrange these things. And these people on the chariot, they're their bosses. And they've arranged it that we have a nice weather. So she was surprised. Oh, they said, oh, the boss is on the chariot. Oh. Anyways, it was all good. All right, Prabhus, I think I better leave you all to have a nice, peaceful day. Are you all still on half term down there?
No, Prabhuji, the half term was last week.
Okay, in Leicestershire, it's this week. You know, people have their own systems. Just like Rupesh was saying, different people, they have their own programs. It's not all centrally organized. So they make their own decisions. Okay, well, I hope we can meet again very soon.
Sure.
Yes, hopefully.
And
Yeah.
we can
Your
chant
words
some
are
more
kind
nectar.
of a melody, you know, a spiritual melody. These sessions are spiritual melody sessions, I think.
Yes, we have this. You know what Prabhupada called it? It's called
Yeah.
skin disease.
Skin disease.
Bhavaro. Skin disease means we've identified ourselves with the skin and bone.
Yeah, that's true.
But actually, we're eternal spirit souls, eternal servants of Krishna. And we're temporarily inhabiting this skin and bone. So this mentality of identifying with the skin and bone is called bhavarog, or skin disease.
Mm.
So we have to get cured of this infection. And the cure is so nice. We associate with devotees, we take Krishna prasadam, we chant Hare Krishna, and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and in this way worship the deity of the Lord. So Jagannath's coming to town. So, and he's in our nice temples and our homes. I'm sure you all have nice deities of Krishna in one form or another in your home, or pictures at least.
Yes, bro.
Yes, bro.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So one more thing from me, and that is all of you, please accept my humble obeisances. Vansha kalpatarubhyas
Kalpatrubhyascha
sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Namo Namo.
And I'll see all you blissful devotees again sometime soon.
Yes, Prabhuji. We look forward to that.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you
Krishna.
so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hari
Hare
Bol.
Hare
Bol.
Bol.
Hari Bol. Okay. Good night, everyone, and sweet dreams about Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. We will, Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Bol.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.